What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Friday Night Shit Chat. I'm your host for this week, Nico, aka the Movie Master,
I'm your Huckleberry.
and I'm joined as always by my good friends. We got Dan, the Heartthrob,
Welcome back, everybody. How y'all doing?
and then of course we got Nick, the Dungeon Master.
What's up, everybody?
Gentlemen, it's another Friday evening. What are we drinking tonight? Nick?
I am drinking Simply Spiked Lemonade.
Simply Spiked Lemonade.
Yup. Sugary drinks.
Sugary drinks. Dan, what about you, my friend?
I'm having a Kona Big Wave.
Ooh, Kona's good.
It is. First time
Damn,
trying
am I
it.
the only one who
Delicious.
went simple? Am I the only one who went simple? Guys, I just have a PBR today.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Hey. Sometimes it's nice to keep it simple, okay?
True. PBR gives me headaches.
I had a bad experience with PBR, so I can't go back to that.
Well, gentlemen, because it's another Friday night, we got some shit to talk about. Tonight's topic is going to be mythologies. So that could be anywhere from ancient mythologies such as Greek, Egyptian, Norse, maybe some far off country that we might not have even heard of any of their mythology. Even things as close and near as modern mythologies, comic books, Lovecraft, movies. A little bit of a wide range there, but for the most part, I feel like we have a good idea of what mythologies we're talking about. So I'm going to start it off today. Let's talk about a little bit of Greek mythology. Why don't we? How familiar are you guys with Greek mythology, if at all?
A little bit.
It's Greeky. A little bit.
So Greek mythology, I've always been into mythology in general. Ever since I was like learning about it in like social studies back in middle school, I believe, maybe even sooner than that. I can't remember. Actually, yeah, it was sooner than that. I think usually around like 4th or 5th grade, at least for where I went to school, we started into like some mythologies and stuff for social studies class. So I think the one I started with was Egyptian, but that quickly morphed into Greek because I found books about them in the library and stuff, and I've always been kind of fascinated ever since. One of my favorite like mythology stories, or one of my favorite myths, I guess you could say, from Greek or from Greece rather, is the Odyssey. How familiar are you guys with the Odyssey?
Nope.
No.
Just me then. Okay.
Just Nico.
Well, for those not aware, or maybe you're not as well versed in it, the Odyssey basically it's one part of a longer narrative called the Iliad. Basically, the Odyssey is like the latter half of the Iliad, whereas like the very beginning part of it is the myth of the Trojan War, or some would say a recount of the Trojan War, but obviously with mythological elements involved. So, like, the myth of Achilles and how he was an immortal warrior who only had one weak spot, and how he helped to basically end the Trojan War, which was started when Helen of Troy was, some say kidnapped, some say willingly went to Hector of Troy. Sorry, not Hector of Troy. I think it was Paris. Yes, Paris of Troy. Fell in love with him, and then I think his king Mycenaeus? Who tried to get his wife back, basically, and basically tasked Achilles with helping them to, win the war and bring her back. Eventually, Achilles was killed in action, but not before helping the Mycenaeans to overtake Troy. And then basically the Odyssey is the journey back from Troy to Odysseus's homeland, and basically everything that he encountered in his travel back home. Things from sea monsters like Scylla, to being seduced by sirens, finding himself on Circe's island and all of his men turned into animals, to eventually finding his way back home to his wife and basically killing all of her suitors. It's a long tale, but it is a very interesting one. And one thing that a lot of people say about Greek myths is that there always tends to be some sort of I guess lesson to be learned, or some sort of morality to be told about most of the stories in Greek mythology. At least in certain ones, I don't necessarily know what the I guess morality tale would have been in the Odyssey, but it is a very long and very interesting story. Some of the other ones that I really like are like the tales of Heracles and his 12 labors. You guys, I would imagine you guys are probably at least familiar with that one, right?
A little bit.
I'm sorry, which one?
Heracles or Hercules and his 12 labors.
Oh, yes. That's not what I thought you said. That's why. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah. Heracles, for those not in the know, I guess, is the actual Greek Greek hero. That's his real name, is Heracles. In Roman mythology, he's known as Hercules, which is supposed to be the same name, but I guess not many people know Heracles. They just know Hercules because that's been popularized. So
yeah, of course.
But yeah, why don't you guys tell me what are some of your favorite mythologies? Whether it's from a certain sector, maybe it's even just a certain story. Nick,
I don't know many of the mythology stories. I just know my knowledge of mythologies is playing the game Smite.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of the Greek gods, but I don't know. I honestly don't know any. Oh, you know what? No, Clash of the Titans. I love that movie. That's what I can say. I mean, I've actually seen, guys. Hold on, I've actually seen that movie.
Seen a movie.
I've seen a movie, the old one.
Okay, I was going to ask. I was going to say, it was which one? Is it the old one or the new one? Because
that's the
there's
old one.
A big difference.
Yeah, and the only scene I remember from that is when he fights Medusa. I remember from the movie. But I mean, yeah, I don't know many of the stories. I know like you said, back in elementary school, we learned about the Greek and the Egyptian and the Norse mythologies and stuff like that. But as far as I don't even remember what stories they told in elementary school. It's just, mythologies is one of those things that just, I think, got away from me. And I only paid attention to it when I was playing a video game that involved it. Because there's another one. And, oh my goodness, I can't. Oh, Age of Mythology. I don't know if either of you guys have played that game. Great game. But, when I'm playing, it's I believe it's mostly Greek Is it mostly Greek? I might be talking on my ass here. But like when I was playing that, when I was playing that, I was into it a little bit, but I never really took it further than that. So, when it comes to like, the what would you call it, the older mythologies, but I can talk about how much I really like Hades because I think he's probably one of the coolest Greek gods out there. I mean, he's literally the god of the underworld and the dead, right? I mean, there's so many. Yeah. There's so many depictions of him, and like even in what do you call it? In Smite, he was actually my main was Hades. He was a tank. He was actually a tank mage. I don't know. He was just really fun to play, and I just like the lore behind any. So I like undead stuff. So when it comes to like that, Hades is like, oh, I latch onto that because the depictions of him are all cool too. And Poseidon. I mean, you can't go wrong with Poseidon.
Oh yeah.
So quick question: Hades, villain or not?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He's just doing his job.
Well, in most modern depictions of him, they always kind of make him out to be a villain.
Yeah,
and in all reality, I mean, he's literally like one of the only gods that actually does his job.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much as like he's the one who comes and takes people's souls or whatever. He runs the underworld, and he's there to basically foster people from death. Like either they stay in the underworld or they go to Elysium. And like so most modern depictions. I mean, especially like Hercules, the movie from Disney. Like they all say, he's the main villain, but in reality, like that's not who he is at all. And I think I can't remember. Oddly enough, even though Clash of the Titans is like one of my favorite movies, I can't remember. It was Hera who's the like main antagonist, right?
I believe so. Yeah, Zeus's wife.
Okay, Zeus's wife. I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember if Hades had any depiction in that or not. I don't think he did, but I know that in the new one he did, and they made him out to be a villain, which was again, that's completely wrong. So
well, it's just easy to label him that because Lord of the Underworld, and then people draw the similarities between him and the devil, which it's not the same at all.
No,
I mean, it literally says like, he runs the underworld. So, I mean, I guess you can draw. No, you can't even draw similarities between it because I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's a villain whatsoever.
No, definitely not. And I mean, even in like all of his stories, he's even in stories where he's the antagonist, at least in Greek myths. It's not even that he's actively trying to stop somebody. He's literally he's doing what he's meant to do, which is he's the god of his realm. He's the one who runs the underworld, and souls who enter there are never supposed to leave. So he literally is just he's supposed to hold them there because that's what his job is.
He's a glorified babysitter.
More or less. And whereas Zeus is always off gallivanting and turning into different animals or different people in order to bang someone's wife or someone's daughter or whomever, making children all over the world. Poseidon also kind of doing the same thing to some degree, although not nearly to the point that Zeus does. Hades kind of gets a bad rap, but Hades is, like I said, ultimately he is probably the best Greek god because he's the only one who actually does what he's supposed to do. I mean, Ares, even though he's the god of war and everything like that, he's fucked off from his job from time to time. Athena has fucked off from her job from time to time. Dionysus, who's barely a god, and the god of wine and merriments, basically. I mean, he's known for fucking off from his job. So
my type of god. Maybe not wine, but
wine, but merriments and libations, I think, is part of it. So go figure, as we're drinking on some libations ourselves.
You.
You hit on Ares too. I actually like Ares as well. I mean, the God of War.
Yeah,
Not the video game, but that's his title, Ares.
yeah,
and
that
he's
war
another
movie
one
was sick though.
I've never played. Anyway,
Oh, dude, we're not getting into this conversation.
Jesus.
What? I can't believe. But anywho, okay. Ares is cool for what he is, and I mean, he's definitely a fucking metal ass god. So I mean,
did we lose Nico?
Oh no.
no, I'm still here.
Oh,
I was waiting for you to say something. I thought you had something to say.
me? No, I did. No.
Oh, that was a very, I don't know, that was a knowing freaking laugh. Anywho, but okay, so I mean, like, Dan, are there any mythologies that you're familiar with, whether old or even some newer ones?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, from what we learned in school, that was my introduction to Roman and Greek mythologies. I did do a project on, I forgot, I think it was like Venus or Neptune. I think that's Roman mythology. I don't remember much about it though. I think the one that stuck with me more was probably Greek mythology, and kind of similar to Nick, is like the gods and goddesses of the underworld. Kind of like piqued my interest, specifically like Erebus and Moros, because Erebus is pretty much I think he's described as like the personification of darkness, which is
Erebus
fucking
is
crazy.
Yeah. It's Erebus is a primordial entity, if I'm not mistaken, and he is like the personification of, is it darkness?
I believe so.
Yeah, his personification of darkness.
Yeah, and then you got Moros, which is a personified spirit of impeding doom. It's pretty fucked up. And yeah, they had said that Moros actually gave people the ability to foresee their death, which sounds horrible. And then I think another one recently that I kind of looked into were chimeras.
The creatures.
Yeah, the creatures. I was actually listening to True Crime Podcast. Surprise, surprise. And it was about like this person that they call like a human chimera. So which is like somebody who has they have like 2 or 3 different sets of cells in their body. So like some of their cells aren't connected to the other cells, if that makes sense. So the story was like this woman had like a child, and then they took the child to the hospital for something, and it didn't, like, they did a blood test and they said it wasn't like the child's mother, and like she literally birthed the child and everything, and for some reason like the DNA test kept coming back negative, and then after they looked into it more, it turns out like she had different sets of cells throughout her body, so that's why they weren't like matching her son's body. And then after I looked it up, I looked at that it originally came from Greek mythology, where it's a hybrid creature pretty much, with like a lion with a goat's head and like a snake's head or some crazy looking shit.
Yeah, it's they have, it's basically all like a whole lion. Like the lion's body typically has the head of a lion as well as the head of a goat, and then it has a tail that is a serpent. So yeah,
nice,
it's pretty sick.
Yeah,
it is pretty fucking metal looking, I tell you what.
The mythology is just metal in general.
Hell yeah,
Mainly
I mean,
Greek, mostly Greek mythology.
I would say Greek mythology definitely is like the proto metal, and then once you get into Norse mythology, a lot of the shit in Norse mythology is heavy metal. That's why I mean a lot of I mean, I don't know. I would say that there's a lot of modern like metal bands and stuff like that that sort of, I mean, so the storytelling sounds similar to like Norse mythology, and then on top of that, like even some of the sounds and stuff, like you can find metal bands that are like Viking metal and fucking stuff to that nature. So like they use like throat singing from like Norse cultures or Germanic cultures and stuff like that to just kind of enhance the freaking sound and shit. So I'm getting kind of off topic here, but yeah.
No.
But yeah, dude. I mean, even Greek is for sure probably like my favorite because I know I've read the most about Greek mythology ad nauseum to some degree. I know a lot about like the mythological creatures, and a lot of the creatures that come from Greek mythology are just awesome. I mean, you got the griffin, you have Pegasus, as well as winged horses. The chimeras are freaking cool. God, I'm trying to think of what else. Like the Nemean lion, the Cernean hind, the freaking Hydra, the many-headed Hydra. Just like any of those, like even just those. I mean, a hippocampus is freaking like insane, an insane thing to think of. You guys know what a hippocampus is?
Yes.
And no, not the thing in your head.
Oh.
A hippocampus is it's basically it's a water horse, right? So it's like it's literally got like the front half of a horse, and then the back half is basically like a fish.
Jeez. So seahorse, no.
More or less, yeah.
Funny.
Capricorn, I believe, comes from Greek mythology as well, where it's the front half is a goat, the back half is fish. Yeah, dude. I mean, the freaking like the creatures from Greek mythology are all insane, and I mean, a lot of the stories are pretty awesome. And like, especially like anything to do with the Olympians, a lot of the stories that have to do with the Olympians, so like the Greek gods that most people are familiar with, most of the stories are like either cautionary tales or like basically this is what the gods did to punish another god or other titans for doing things like giving man fire or creating men or disobeying an order from them or whatever the case may be. Like Heracles, like his name, it basically means like it's basically in spite of Hera, because his mortal mother knew that she laid with Zeus, and so named him. I'm trying to remember. Actually, you know what? I can't remember if it's in spite of or if she named him Heracles because she was like trying to praise Hera, but Hera ultimately was jealous as shit because like there's another kid that's not hers that her husband had out of wedlock and shit, right? And so like she's the one who sent the freaking snakes to Heracles as a baby to try and kill him, that he ultimately ended up strangling. She's the one who basically made him temporarily mad and made him kill his wife and children, which ultimately had led to him having to do the 12 labors. And then most of the time that he was doing the 12 labors, she was actively trying to stop him from doing them or stop him from completing them. So like it's just like she was being fucking petty the entire time because like there's a child out there that's not hers but belongs to her husband and shit. The story of Medusa is a really like honestly like the whole story behind Medusa is really fucked up, because she was punished by Athena. She was punished by Athena for a really effed up reason. I'm not going to get too into it, just because there'd be trigger warnings and all this other stuff. But yeah, so like, I mean, there's a crazy backstory, and ultimately, like, she ends up being turned into a monster for something that wasn't her fault, and then ultimately slain by the freaking son of Zeus, only because he needed to, it was an act of heroism basically, and then he's the one who gets put in the stars and shit. So yeah, it's again, all Greek mythology, it's either cautionary tales or tales of how gods are petty.
Well,
yeah,
I really feel like I need to talk about this here, but kind of on the same line with Hades. My favorite Egyptian god is frickin' Anubis.
Nice.
I mean, am I wrong about that? Isn't he one of
Anubis
the coolest ones out there? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just some of like the fan art or like games he appears in or anything like that. I feel like he always has one of the coolest looks or skins or and he's god of mummification and
the guardian of the underworld, I think.
Yep, I believe he's right there with Hades. So surprise, surprise.
Well, he's not right there with Hades, because the one that would be
Afterlife.
the one that would be basically the equivalent to Hades would probably be Osiris, because Osiris is the god of the underworld. But without Anubis, he's basically like the fairy god to the underworld. So without Anubis being the one to basically bring you there or judge you to go to the underworld, you wouldn't go there. So he's.
Well, I mean, I was just talking about in terms of how cool he is.
Oh, definitely. In terms of how cool he is, yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think another one that's pretty badass too is Ra, because he's always portrayed as like a falcon.
Anubis and Ra. Yeah. Always, I always feel like they appear together in most things.
Yeah, I think they're pretty big in pop culture, both of them.
I agree with that. Yeah, I feel like they're the most I don't want to say well known, but like the most used in terms of Egyptian deities. That and Isis, I think, is another one.
Yeah, she's the goddess of the underworld. She's the husband of Osiris, or the wife of Osiris.
Osiris, yeah. So, but like those are like the three that I know from Egyptian.
The one that I like a lot is Bast, and that's because so Bast has a big presence in Marvel, because Bast is the god of cats. I'm trying to remember if god of something else, but basically she's like the chief deity in Wakanda, so of Black Panther and his tribe and his nation. And that, like, because of Bast, he's it's the reason why they have the powers that they do and stuff. So it's pretty sick. I'm trying to find why of all the stuff here I don't see Bast is kind of weird.
Is it spelled differently than you think it is?
No, it's either BAS or BAST. It's usually spelled both ways.
Isn't it BAS?
I just thought it would be. BAS. Well, I'm sorry.
BASTET.
That's another way to spell it too. Is Bastet? Yes. I was looking at a page specifically that just had all all Egyptian gods on it, but it didn't list Bast for some reason. So,
also, I just like how Anubis, like when you go there, like he weighs your heart against a feather. That's the coolest thing. Come on, that's the coolest thing.
Definitely is, dude. I saw a freaking scene from, I don't know what movie it was or some show it was, and it didn't show the whole scene. It just literally kind of showed like a little like snippet from it. But there was a person in the afterlife who was talking to Anubis, and Anubis went to go reach for her heart, and she was just like, basically stopped him from doing it because she was like, I already know there's no way that my heart, with the sins on my heart or whatever, that it'll be lighter than a feather or some crap like that. But the whole scene in general was just like really cool. The way it was like set up, or like the way it was set up and everything. I don't remember everything that happened in the scene, but basically she was just like kind of given the what for and like why she didn't want to be weighed against a feather and shit. And Anubis was just kind of like listening to her the whole time. And then if I remember correctly, he just kind of was just like, he was just basically trying to like not necessarily console her, but just kind of make her at ease a little bit because he had a job to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was still cool.
That's why Smite is a great game. You can literally pit Anubis against Hades and then like fangirl out over your favorite deity. I used to play that religiously with my wife and my brother and his friend, and then we started getting into like the rank stuff, and I'm like, yep, nope, this is when it doesn't become fun anymore. And I haven't gone back. Have you guys played Smite, by the way?
I have not, no.
I haven't. I have it downloaded on my PlayStation, my Xbox, but I just have never like played it. I have never booted it up, and I've been meaning to, but I don't know. I just never have.
I will say it's fun. It's definitely, if you like the MOBA type games, like League of Legends and Dota and stuff like that, you'll like it. And it is kind of cool seeing like being able to pick Hades and Ra, Aphrodite, and they like the abilities that they have and how they can manipulate the battlefield is really cool. And just seeing like what these developers thought that their roles would be based on like their stories, like the fact that Hades was a mage tank, I was like, huh, that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, no, I mean, even if I think you can play bots now too, so like you don't have to worry about like toxic teammates or stuff like that. But it is definitely fun to like jump in and try out. It's a good one. I recommend at least playing it once or twice if you like this kind of stuff for sure. So,
yeah, I think that was definitely the thing that that drew me to it, because I knew that there was like different gods and stuff that you could play as. Like I think Sun Wukong is like one that you can play as well.
And he's popular in there too, yes.
Yeah, I figured as much. Speaking of, do you guys know anything about Sun Wukong and the story Journey to the West?
I do not. No.
I know he's a monkey.
He's the Monkey King.
Yes, and I know that there was recently a game that came out about him.
Yes. Black Myth Wukong.
Yes.
Yeah. That it definitely I think it does a good job. I haven't played it, but from the things that I've seen of it, it does a good job of depicting the just like battles that he's famous for having in his story. And I'm trying to remember what is his other name. He has like a bunch of names. So it's Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. I know that it's the Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, and I want to say there's another one who was just like he who is equal to Buddha or something like that. But like it's you guys know about Dragon. You guys know Dragon Ball Z, right? Or Dragon Ball?
No.
Oh damn!
TV show. It's a TV show. It's not one that I was
It's an
interested in.
anime, but, basically, the story behind Goku. I mean, like his name in Japanese is literally Son Goku, which is Sun Wukong in Japanese. Um, it's not a one to, it's not an exact one to one, but there are elements of Sun Wukong that help to inspire Goku from Dragon Ball Z. Even, I mean, so much as like, when he was young, he had something called the Power Pole, which was supposed to be Sun Wukong's staff. He would ride around on the Nimbus cloud, which that's what Sun Wukong does, is he rides around on a cloud. Goku literally gets like stronger and has different transformations and forms. The stronger he gets, that's the same as Sun Wukong. And all Goku wants to do is fight and get better, and that's more or less kind of the whole thing behind Sun Wukong, is that he literally just wants to prove that he's the best. So much so that he's like, again, he has the names like the Great Sage, Heaven's Equal, the one equal to Buddha, or he was equal to Buddha, or whatever his other moniker is. He's erased his name from the Book of Mortality, I believe it's called, and so he's become effectively immortal. But then not only that, he's also been, I think he was cursed to not ever be able to die. So he's got like, but basically he's got like, I think it's like 5 times immortality.
Oh, wow. Whoa.
It's nuts. It's seriously nuts. Like, just how strong he is. The stories behind him are all just like, again, it's basically just like a. Did you ever play a game when you were a kid where you and your friend or you and your siblings or whatever like that would kind of come up with like a character, or it would be you, and basically it would be like each round or each time somebody's talking, it's like, yeah, well, what if I had a gun and I blasted you? It's like, yeah, but what if I had a bulletproof vest on? It's like, okay, but what if I had hollow points? And then, okay, but what if I had a gun that was stronger than your hollow point? It's just like that back and forth with freaking Sun Wukong. And like, he has magic powers upon magic powers upon like so many different abilities that make no sense whatsoever. And it's all because he just wants to be the greatest. And at the end of the day, he also just kind of wants to have fun. So like he can freaking like take one single hair from his head and turn it into a clone of himself.
Jeez.
And that clone of him will have the exact same powers as he does, be just as strong as he is, can go out and live a life of its own, come back and become part of Sun Wukong again. Like,
Jesus.
Gosh.
yeah, it's insane, dude. So like the myth behind him is insane, and like I don't even, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that's the only story from Journey to the West. I think that's just one of the stories from Journey to the West, but I could be wrong. I'm not as knowledgeable on that as I am like other things, but that's why. But yeah, dude, like literally that. So he's the inspiration behind Goku from Dragon Ball, the whole Dragon Ball series. That's why he always had like every new show or every new season, he has like a new transformation and he gets stronger and stronger. And some people are kind of like, oh god, this is so ridiculous, like why is Goku like this? Like, well, look who he's based on. Like it's literally just so like hey, I just keep getting stronger every rip that I get. Like even when I fail, I still end up gaining something out of it. So
I did not know that about Well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't if I really don't know Sun Wukong or Dragon Ball Z. So I'm uneducated swine, apparently.
That's just the way my my tism works sometimes, dude. I go into these deep dives. I go into these deep dives of things. So like back in the day, like once I figured out, I was like, his name is Son Goku, and it sounds a lot similar to Sun Wukong. And I was like, oh, and he had a monkey tail at one point. Oh, and they all turn into apes and blah blah blah. And then I looked into it. I was like, oh, no wonder.
That explains that.
That explains everything. But yeah.
Nico is to mythologies as Nick is to conspiracy theories. Got it. Noted.
But I digress. I don't want this to be a conversation I'm having with just that conversation that I'm dominating here. What other sort of mythologies are you guys familiar with? Anything, even not anything that's ancient, something like recent or modern, I guess.
I'm saving the best for last, so go ahead, Ken.
You guys know what Discworld is?
Discworld.
Yeah.
Why does that sound familiar? What is Discworld?
It's fictional world. It's from Terry Pratchett from I think the first book about it was The Color Magic. So Discworld is it's actually 41 novels.
Whoa.
So it's the giant like turtle pretty much.
Oh,
It's hard to explain. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it.
when did he start this series?
1983.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a fictional world in his novels, and it's pretty much
It's flat Earth.
yeah. That's probably where it comes from. Well, the disc itself is described as like I think about say 10,000 miles.
Oh
So
my
it's
god.
got like 2/5 of what Earth is. So, in addition to its flatness, it has a 10-mile high mountain that lies in the middle of it. And it's the point of origin for the standing magical field. And is home to many of the disc gods and disc world undergods. So it's similar to like Greek mythology's Mount Olympus, kind of. So that's pretty weird shit. But yeah, that's probably where Flat Earth came from. That's what it is. It's a circle.
Oh, dude, this sounds fucking insane.
No, yeah, it's some pretty crazy shit, man. I mean, I haven't read any of the books, if I'm honest with you, but just from stuff that I forgot where I first heard of it. Might have been from a TV show or just doom scrolling on TikTok, but
Did you say
Kind of.
doom scrolling?
yeah, you don't like doom scrolling?
What is that? What does that mean?
You're just sitting there scrolling mindlessly.
Scrolling mindlessly through typically through social media.
Okay, I only really do that with Facebook Reels, so I didn't know that's what it was called. I just thought it was called being
just
fat and lazy.
Next thing you know, it's fucking 45 minutes past. You don't remember watching one fucking video.
God, I don't know. I've never done it for that long. Holy crap!
Yeah,
It happens.
yeah. I was
10
gonna
minutes
say.
max.
I mean,
10 minutes max. Come on,
Aw,
really?
you're
45 minutes, you guys?
You're a better man than me, dude.
Yeah.
I've done longer than that. So
I got Demon
Freaking-
Slayer and Diablo, so this doesn't last long.
How about you guys familiar with Mayan mythology at all?
Nope.
very
so-
little. I have tried to do more research on it. I just haven't gotten as deep into it as I'd
Yeah.
like to.
You know, there actually isn't much on it. Like, it's very, very little. I'm assuming it's probably the translation of it that's probably limiting that. But I think some of the deities that stand out to me are Akat, which is pretty much a god of tattooing. So yeah, I mean, you know how like I think both Aztecs and Mayans used tattoos like in a religious way. So they actually had pretty much a god for that. And then another one, which is I found a little funny, is I'm probably gonna butcher the name, but it's Baluk Chapdan, and he is the god of war, violence, and gambling.
Oh, damn, that's
Believe it
got
or
you all over it.
Yeah, I was not expecting them to have a god for gambling. The more you know. But yeah, that is one thing that, you know, being Mexican is something that I've been wanting to look into more. But I mean, like I said, there's not a lot on either Aztec or Mayan mythology. And yeah, I'm assuming that's coming from like the translation issues that they have. Because I know it is a really complicated like dialect that they used to use.
Yeah, just so it's definitely a lot of it is a language thing, because I mean, Mayans they died out or were killed long before the Spanish conquest. So because the Aztecs were the ones who basically kind of, well, not just the Aztecs, but all of the basically ancestors of the Mayas were the ones obviously to like succeed the Mayans, more or less. Aztec was very much one of them. They were just like one of, if not probably the more prominent one, because they were the ones who had the most what's the word I'm looking for? The most contact with the Spanish conquistadors. So they're the ones, they know a little bit more of their culture versus the Mayans, because the Mayans were already long gone by the time the Aztecs came around. But it is definitely like, because the Mayan language, even though it has some similarities to like Nahuatl, it's still very different. Even now, Nahuatl isn't like, it's probably the most spoken native language from like Mexico and like anywhere south of Mexico, but it's definitely not the only one that was spoken. So a lot of that stuff has either been lost because of language, lost because of eradication, or hasn't been found because there are people who still are like native but they've basically never really been found, if that makes any sense. Like they've never had sense. Very much contact with like modern world. So
yeah, because I know there's a lot all around Mexico. There's a lot of small little villages where they don't even speak Spanish. They speak like their own dialect, and yeah, nobody's really been there to kind of explore anything or find anything. So maybe there's a lot of stuff over there that hasn't been discovered yet.
That's crazy. I did not know that. For real.
Yeah, dude. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was actually just gonna start talking about some of the Norse deities, but I don't want to cut you off from the Mayan.
Oh, I was just really gonna touch on a couple of things really quick. So like some of the deities that I like from Mayan mythology are there's one called Camazotz. That's a bat god, basically.
Batman.
And he's the god of right, exactly, night, death, and sacrifice. Man. Freaking metal. But then there's also so there's one myth or story, I guess you could say, that I remember. I don't remember if it's specifically from Mayan or if it's from Aztec culture, but there's a myth about the moon and why. So, like, you know how the moon has like darker spaces on it?
Yeah.
And basically, a lot of that is like craters and just terrain or whatever, right? But basically, and these cultures aren't the only ones who have made myths about it, but specifically this myth. But um, they say that because of how it looks like there's a rabbit on the moon, and so the myth is that if I'm remembering it correctly, that the goddess of the moon, or the god or the goddess of the moon, made fun of or basically disrespected, I think, the sun god. And so the sun god took a rabbit and threw it at the moon, and forever like just made like like a stamp of a freaking rabbit on the moon.
It's more believable than us landing astronauts on the moon.
I found it funny, but like this the whole thing about mythology. Also, aside from being like I said, cautionary tales or like tales of, you know, petty gods or whatever like that. Obviously, that sounds like a very petty freaking thing, but they're also like they're stories to try and explain things, why things look a certain way or why things are a certain way. Why does the rain fall? Why are there thunder, or why is there thunder and lightning? Why do hurricanes exist? You know, what is war? Where did war come from? Freaking just things to that nature, right? And like none did that more so than I think freaking like Mayan and Aztec mythologies or cultures, because it of the aside from like Native Americans, like the Indian population in the United States, they're one of the younger like cultures, so to speak, because all the rest of them, you know, Greek mythology, Egyptian, Norse, even, you know, Japanese and like Chinese cultures are a lot older. They stretch back a lot further, and they have, you know, obviously been refined over time a lot sooner than like Mayan or Aztec culture was. But yeah, so go ahead and talk to us a little bit about Norse mythology, Nick.
Well, I mean, I don't know too much yet again, but I will say that a lot of the Norse gods that are on here are like that we know about. A lot of them, in one way or another, are represented in Dungeons and Dragons. Whether it's by name, like actual, excuse me, by actual name or like some variation of the name. But actually, my paladin from one of my campaigns, who is now dead, worshipped Tyr, the god of war. He was he was a devout follower of Tyr, and like Tyr appears by name and by description in D&D, like word for word. God of war, law, justice. So it's perfect for like a paladin or a good cleric to follow Tyr if they're like, you know, on the path of maybe not redemption, but like an oath of vengeance or something like that would be a good deity to follow. But one of my favorites out of Norse is Odin. I love the Allfather. It's a cool name. It's a cool, like, he's got a cool title. He is literally the, you know, another god of war, wisdom, all, and, you know, the god of gods, I guess you could say, for Norse. Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorites. And actually, another fun fact about video games, I'm pretty sure one of the raids in World of Warcraft had a lot of the Norse gods in it. Freya and I can't remember them all, but there's like a raid that you do where they're all the Ymir was in there. God, I can't remember them all, but yeah, it was a fun one because I'm like, oh, I know all these names and oh, I know all this stuff, but again, I don't really know any stories like Norse stories. I know Vikings are a lot of closely related to Norse mythologies. That's all the knowledge I got.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know too
useless.
much about it either. I mean, just the more known ones like Odin, Thor, and Loki, and I think that's pretty much it.
Hey, Odin's cool, but I'm telling you, it's all about Tyr.
I know, like, see, Norse mythology is one that, like, I've been trying to sort of learn about and familiarize myself with, but I haven't gotten, again, nearly as into it as like Greek mythology. But I know some things, like I know a lot of shit about Loki and just like how weird of a god he is. Like, because he's a shapeshifter, he could shapeshift into different animals and stuff like that, and sort of I mean, like, so the wolf Fenrir, who is said to
Fenrir.
um who, like, Odin chained up because he was basically supposed to be one of the bringers of Ragnarok. He, like, chained to a boulder or something like that, right? But that's a child of Loki. Odin's steed, Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse, is Loki's child as well. Jormungandr, the world serpent,
Mm-hmm.
is also a child of Loki.
This guy.
Yeah. Well, so Jormungandr is actually, it's so weird that it's a serpent, but that's his child. That's Loki's child with a giant named Angerboda. So how a god and a giant make a serpent, I don't know. But like he turned, yeah, like yeah, but usually isn't that something that's attached to Loki? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you know, when a giant loves, oh, anyway, continue.
But like, you know, in order for Loki to, you know, create Sleipnir, he had to turn into a horse. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he gave birth to Sleipnir, so he actually became a female horse.
Oh,
If I'm not mistaken,
Hey,
right? Fenrir, I can't remember exactly who he made Sleipnir, or who he made Fenrir with, but I know it's another weird one. But yeah, like two of the main like entities for Ragnarok were made by Loki. And it's because Loki was supposed to be the one. I think Loki was the one, if I'm not mistaken, who was supposed to basically set off Ragnarok or something along those lines. Somebody's puppy, it sounds like, in the background. Fenrir, along with Hel and Jormungandr, is a child of Loki. And okay, so Fenrir was his child with Angerboda as well. And I forgot Hel. So Hel is the goddess of death.
Mm-hmm. Yep, forgot about Hel too.
Right. So that's another one of Loki's children.
Dude's got a lot of kids.
He's got a lot of kids, and then he's also got grandkids. I forgot, because Fenrir is the father of Skull and Hati, which are the basically they're the wolves in the sky that chase the sun and the moon in continuous cycle, basically until Ragnarok. And once you know it's Ragnarok because I think Skull will devour the moon or the sun. Basically, they'll devour the ones that they'll devour whatever celestial body they're chasing, whether it's the sun or the moon. And that'll be like the sign of Ragnarok, basically. It's interesting. I know that the Poetic Edda is like the basis for this, for the whole of Norse mythology, basically. But yeah, I've haven't dove that deep into it just yet. But I definitely am interested in it because it seems pretty damn metal for the most part, at least the way that the stories are. That plus, like, I need to do research for some of my comic book writing, so.
Yes.
Ooh.
There'll be some elements of that. But yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. I know that Thor has a lot of. So Thor is also kind of like one of those, like he's like a Herculean figure, more or less, where he was. I know that a lot of his stories have to do with like, basically like certain feats of his that he did. Like the one that I know of his, aside from him being the hero of Ragnarok, is that he was tasked with drinking from a horn that will never dry. So like it's like it'll endlessly have, I think it's either filled with mead or some sort of libation. But he ended up drinking all that it had to offer, supposedly.
Oh.
Wow.
Right.
Drunken.
But yeah. It's not much more. I mean, there's not much more I could say about Norse mythology other than, like, I mean, a lot of people are familiar with certain Norse like deities because of, I would say for sure, because of Marvel.
Oh yeah.
But like the thing with the movies is like they don't even scratch the surface of like how deep it goes, like in the comic books for these. For like Thor and a lot of the Norse like figures or whatever that Marvel uses, they actually do like a lot of. Some of the stories are like basically direct, like modern adaptations of things from the Poetic Edda. Especially when it pertains to Thor and Loki. But they, like, I mean, they dive deep. They do dive kind of deep on like on Norse mythology in Marvel. Whereas DC, I think they're a lot more. They are a lot heavier into, I think, Greek mythology than like anything else.
That's interesting.
Even so much as like some of their stories are kind of adaptations of like Greek myths and stuff like that too. And not just things that pertain to Wonder Woman, like Superman stories and stuff like that. So, which we've already talked about in a previous episode. Oddly enough, the one that I also hosted. But I feel like comic books are basically our like modern mythology, so to speak.
Yeah,
because obviously, like, while we don't like worship Superman and Batman and Spider-Man as gods necessarily, they are definitely like the heroes that we tell the most stories about and that we use to basically tell tales of morality and struggle and, you know, overcoming adversity and odds and stuff like that too. So in a way, it is more or less kind of like our mythology nowadays. I could say that, you know, probably 1,000 years from now, if, you know, this world is, you know, this modern world is ever, you know, razed to the ground and then has to be dug up, you know, by whoever survives this earth or whatever like that. Like, they'll find comic books and movies and stuff like that and be like, oh, this must be the things that they worshipped, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You guys, either one of you know much about Warhammer Age of Sigmar by chance?
No, not too much.
So I mean, obviously, to Nico's point, well, I don't know if it's the same point, but coming into like modern mythologies, and this is totally based on a game. So, but
very popular game.
a very very popular game. But like they have a lot. Like so, Age of Sigmar is what we would be considering like fantasy or medieval times, I guess you could say. You know, it's the sword and board magic, you know, undead type of thing. But one of my favorite models and just one of my favorite deities in all of Warhammer Age of Sigmar is Nagash, the supreme leader of the undead. Like, so basically, very, very long story short, because I'm not going to go into the depth the depth of this, because Warhammer is nothing but lore. It is lore upon lore upon lore. So Nagash has he's actually got a couple different armies on at his disposal, and his excuse me, hold on. His main intent is to invade what they call the mortal realms, which is where your typical orcs, goblins, you know, humans, dwarves, they inhabit that. And so what Nagash has at his disposal is he's got his normal undead, which they just got renamed recently in an update. I think it's called the Flesh Eater Courts, which are like ghouls and giant bat creatures. So he's got them under his control, and he also has the Grave Guard. No, I'm sorry. What are they called? The Grave Lords. They're a bunch of vampires.
Nice.
He's got the Night Haunt, which by far one of my favorite armies, just because of looks. They're ghosts. So like all of the Night Haunts are like criminals. So like if you were like a hardened criminal in the mortal realms and you died and went to Nagash's realm, he rose you as a Night Haunt. So like thieves and stuff like that would become Night Haunts, because they still had their like anguish or their sins in death as they did in life. And I'm not promoting Warhammer whatsoever, but if you go to their website and look up the models for the Night Haunts, I mean, they're hard not to fall in love with. So their models are awesome. But anyway, Nagash himself. Oh no, wait, and then he's also got what's called the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and the entire reason he made the Bone Reapers is because there is a group of mortals that worship the lightning god called Sigmar. And I mean, they're all these Sigmar warriors are almost near immortal. So what Nagash did was he made these Bone Reapers, which are like reinforced like skeletons. So like if you think of a normal weak skeleton, he has taken that to the next level where they're almost as immortal as the Sigmar fighters themselves. And it's just really cool lore, because like he's obviously he doesn't want to be outdone, so he just takes a bunch of skeletons and muscle and mashes it together and creates a new army for himself. And I love that idea that, like, you know, the supreme leader of the undead is just like, you know what, I don't like that, I'm gonna make a stronger army. Smash, 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 bam. There you go. So, but I mean, and then like going into a lot of the 40k gods line up with, I should say deities. A lot of the 40k deities line up with Age of Sigmar as well when it comes to chaos. So, which besides the death armies for Age of Sigmar, chaos is definitely my second favorite. Overall, I like the chaos gods. Are just, I don't know, they're brutal. So I don't really like them. But Nurgle, which not a lot of people like, he's the Lord of Plague. And again, I'm not promoting Warhammer, but the models for that are just so gross and cool looking. And basically, the story for him is like, you know, people that want power, and he gives it to them for a price. And it's basically like an infestation. It's like a plague. Like, you know, your real skin falls off and you're covered in pustules, and like you know, your skin flays and your intestines, like, you know, just kind of hang out of your body. But
Gee.
yeah, he is disgusting. But like, again, just the base knowledge I'm giving you here, like, I mean, the lore for 40K and for Age of Sigmar goes, and it's almost, I'd almost argue that it's as deep as like Greek mythology, with how much lore is piled on not just the deities, but the lore itself in Warhammer, the Warhammer universe. It's deep. And my second favorite chaos god is named Khorne. He's the Lord of Skulls, or the Blood God, and he's like, his followers are usually berserkers, like rage-induced berserkers, to the point where, like, you know, they're maybe berserking on themselves to get more like rage in them, kind of thing. But like those two gods are like, well, I should say three because I mentioned Nagash, but those three deities in the Warhammer universe are they're fun to read about. So, but I don't know how much knowledge either of you have on Warhammer. I just figured I'd bring it up since we're talking about deities.
Yeah, I don't know much about Warhammer, but it definitely, for one, they look cool as shit. Like the miniatures and stuff, and the models that, like, all the ones that you have are fucking awesome looking. So like anything Age of Sigmar is like really dope because it's medieval fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, going into, you know, 40K, like that stuff is really freaking cool too. You know, being like a little bit more futuristic, you know, as well as kind of keeping some sort of medieval elements into it. But like they are really cool too. So I mean, like, learning that there's more behind just all, you know, more behind all of that, and like, you know, that they have, you know, like a mythology system, or, you know, a deity system, or anything, you know, worship or anything like that, like is cool. Which brings me to the next thing. So like, I think we're all kind of fans of the Elder Scrolls, right? A little bit, to some degree.
Yeah.
What's the Elder Scrolls? Which one? Arena, Daggerfall, Oblivion, Morrowind, or Skyrim?
Well, like, I mean, I know we mostly talk about Skyrim because like that's probably the game we've all probably played the most of. I would
It is not. I did not play Skyrim all the way through.
What? Okay. But you know Skyrim and stuff like that. You know some of the lore in Elder Scrolls, correct?
I know the first 20 minutes of Skyrim.
Oh my goodness.
What?
I've played Morrowind and Oblivion and, surprisingly, Daggerfall all the way through.
Okay, well, I mean, Oblivion probably has the most, I would say, a lot of lore attached to it. Because,
Oh, God, yeah.
so, like, the fact that they have, you know, that, like, that has, like, you know, an entire, like, you know, deity, like, pantheon, and, you know, things from, like, the Aedra to the Daedric princes, and, you know, each culture sort of has, like, sort of the same, like, mythology, but with some certain, you know, tweaks and stuff like that. Even so much as, like, some of them have, like, completely, you know, specific gods to them and stuff like that. Like, it's pretty, I find that pretty interesting. Obviously, the one I think that that a lot of people probably know the most about from Elder Scrolls might be the Daedric princes.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they tend to take a lot more precedence, or they take a main stage in a lot of the games versus, like, the Aedra. But a lot of the, like, lore behind Elder Scrolls in general has a lot to do with like war based on worship and stuff like that too. I mean, in most of Skyrim, it's about Talos and outlawing the worship of Talos and things to that nature too. So like like the fact that like even games that we play have large backgrounds and mythology that ties into it is pretty insane. So like the fact that somebody like came up with all of that shit is pretty awesome. And some of it has like parallels to our own world's ancient mythology and stuff like that too. But I don't know. I just find it pretty interesting in general.
Well, Elder Scrolls has always been good about the lore and their deities and stuff like that. I feel like they did a really good job, even in Daggerfall. I don't know. That's probably way before your guys' time.
Yeah, but I never played it.
Yeah, honestly, Daggerfall is very hard to go back to just because of how old it is. But it is definitely it's a good one. Like if you can stomach the old graphics and like just like there's nothing points you in any direction in Daggerfall. It was one of those like it's kind of like Morrowind and Oblivion where it's just kind of like you have to figure it out. But the lore starts with Arena, which is Elder Scrolls 1, and like right. By the time it gets to Skyrim, it's jaw dropping how much lore they've crammed into the Elder Scrolls. So yeah, it's very fun to see that stuff like play out in front of you. Oh, and the picture I sent is Nagash.
Yeah, I figured. I saw that. I was like, oh. That's what I find really cool too, especially in Skyrim, because of like the modding community and stuff like that. Somebody had created a mod that adds in worship system where, like, at the beginning of the game, and depending on the race that you choose, it will give you a list of deities or Daedric princes that you can worship. And so based on whoever it is that you choose to worship, you get various like bonuses based on who it is that you're following or who you're a worshiper of. And it has like a system where like if you have to pray at least once a day, if not more. And so like that raises your what is it called? You're like standing with your deity or whatever, and based on whatever your standing is with your deity, that gives you like a certain bonus. And then like not only that, but then there's like certain acts that you do that you can do in order to basically give praise to or to please your deity. So like I think Stendarr, because I think Stendarr is the god of justice, if I'm not mistaken. Stendarr, the steadfast god of mercy, charity, well-earned luck, and justice. Yeah. So like there's like a specific like if you're like you play your character lawful, you follow all laws within a town, and you help like local law enforcement and stuff like that, like you get a bonus based on that or whatever like that. It's really cool. It is really cool. Like the in-depth that somebody went through, the depth that somebody went through in order to create that mod is pretty sick. Like to the point where I think I was playing an orc, and the only god that an orc should be following is Malakath, and so I was a follower of Malakath, and freaking like I think it was all about, I'm trying to remember what his like what some of his bonuses were. It was like I think it was like bonuses to like heavy armor as well as like one-handed or two-handed weapons. Like I got an increase in my freaking stamina and shit like that. And like it's cool too because like if it's been a while since you've like worshipped or whatever like that, it'll tell you. It's been a while since it'll tell you on screen. It's been a while since you've worshipped. You should, you know, pray or do an act to please your God or whatever like that. And then you just like hit the worship button or freaking go and do something, and it's just really cool. And then even to like I think I was like in a battle with a couple, like I think it was like in a battle with like two people or something like that, and the way I did the finishers on them, it popped up with a freaking message is like, this pleases Malakath, and it gave me like a bonus or some shit. And I was like, oh dude, this is so sick. So it's really freaking cool. Again, that's somebody like so much so that they made a mod to add the worshiping system or the belief system into the game, based on like what these deities, and again it's also based on like if you're a Nord, you'd be worshiping these deities. Like they added in Talos as a worshiper or like as a god you can worship for Nords. Again, Malakath for orcs. And they it changes the name because some people know Oriel as Akatosh, whereas all of the elves are going to know it as Oriel or whatever. And so it changes the name. It changes like little tweaks just to freaking like make it specific to that race. It's really cool, really really cool.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It does sound like a lot of work, and like the fact that somebody put all that work into it because they have that deep of a lore system or of a like mythology in the game, or not in the game, but in the games or in the game's lore. Like I think, or in the franchise's lore, even like I think that's awesome. So
yeah, that's pretty sick.
But yeah. How are we looking on beers, guys?
I have my last one.
Yep, I have half one left.
I got about a half of one left too. So, was there something else that you wanted to talk about, Nick?
I don't know, Dan. You got anything else?
No, you can go ahead.
No. Well, I mean, in your introduction, you mentioned one of my favorite authors and some of the deep dives of the mythos that I'm most connected with, and that would be H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. By far, some of the most fascinating stories, and like the people that have drawn one of my favorites, Cthulhu. Like just the art that comes out from him is it's really cool. I just really like it. But for those of you that don't know, or either you two that don't know, Cthulhu is merely a priest of other outer gods. So he's not even the most powerful being, in the mythos itself. He is my favorite, but he's just a priest that, even the sight of him makes you go crazy. Just think of what anything else can do to you at that point, but one of my other favorites out there, and I have a really hard time saying his name. His name is pronounced Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep. Sure.
Nyarlathotep.
Yeah, it's not how you say it either, but yes, closer than me. He is the he's like the outer god or the old one that is. He has many faces. He has masks that like he can look like different things, but his true form is like a twisted, like tall tripod screaming. It's it's things of nightmares, but like I like horror stuff. So his true form is horrific, and it sends like that excited tingle down my spine whenever I see him. But like he's like I believe a lot of these deities or old ones, because there's like a whole ring of things. It's like outer gods, old ones, and I'm like stumbling over myself because I knew this, but I think everything, every deity or every being in the mythos stems from Azathoth, and because Azathoth is like he is the being, right? Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he eats worlds. He's just this mass that devours worlds. And even his, like, because, like, obviously back when HP wrote this stuff, it was what, 1928? So, like, the pictures, like, that we see today are people that read these stories and, like, draw these figures, and just, like, what they come up with after reading the story, is fascinating. I'm attached to every single one of these pictures. I love it. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure that everyone stems from Azathoth, including Nyarlathotep. Anyway, him. He's got to be. He's up there with Cthulhu, and my other one that I've like did a deep dive on, and I really like. Can't say his name because it's bad juju to say his name, but we'll refer to his play. The who you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
The play that was named after him, The King in Yellow, or Hastur. I'll just say his name once. It's okay, Hastur.
That wasn't who I thought it was.
Oh, who'd you think I was talking about?
Shu, but I'm not going to say the last part of his name.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, at that point, I just don't think that we can. But yeah, no, Shub that's a really good one. I like that that story and that being in itself. But Hastur has got to be another like top one for me. Just a lot of people refer to him as the King in Yellow. It is actually a play about him because they're too terrified to say his name. Kind of like a Beetlejuice thing, where if you say his name too many times, he just shows up, and he'll show up as like a figure in a yellow cloak with no face, and pretty sure he devours you. So you don't want to say his name too much. But he's like the poster child of like what if like you think of like Cthulhu cultists. He's kind of like that poster child, like what they look like, with the hood up, the no face, the robes over them, and that's how he depicts himself. But his true form too is just it's just really cool. I just put it that way. It's I don't know. I can talk about the Cthulhu mythos for a while. But it's also got to be something that you're into, right? Like, I mean, I can't sit here and talk about, cosmic beings and whatnot if, like, that's not really what you're into. Yog-Sothoth is another good one. See, I'm just going to keep going down, like, the list. I'm just like, oh, he's cool. So.
Yeah, Yog-Sothoth is really cool, too. That was, like, aside from Cthulhu, that was, like, one of the ones that kind of first got my attention.
Well, Yog-Sothoth, he basically is time and space. Like he occupies everything. And I believe he gave birth to the Dunwich Horror, which is again a cosmic being in a made-up town in HP's stories. And even something as mortal as the Dunwich Horror is really cool. I really like the Dunwich Horror. The story is actually fantastic too. If you read the story, there's an old movie, and the movie's not great, but if you like old movies, I actually watched that movie because I'm really into the mythos. I know 2 movies I've watched this episode alone. I'm on a roll.
It's gotta be a record or something.
It's an old yeah, it really does. It's an old black and white movie, and I think it just gets across like, and it's obviously, you know, it's not CGI like that, but it gets across how terrifying these things are. And I think that's like the horror part of me like latches onto this, like none other. It's just I've read his entire compendium, which I don't know if you guys have seen that book, but it's enormous. I've read it twice. And it's I mean, there are some stories like I think it's the Mountains of Madness. Really good short story. I recommend, if you guys haven't read it, to read it. I recommend anyone that hasn't read it to read it. Call of Cthulhu is a given. Like it's just one of the ones that like you got to read it. It's good, and just I don't even know if the depiction of Cthulhu is in that, but like what he can do. And the thing is too, I know, Nico, that one day you and I went back and forth about who would win in a fight, Wonder Woman or I actually said, did I say the Justice League or did I say superheroes? I don't remember.
You just said that there isn't either a character in fiction or that there isn't a superhero that could be Cthulhu.
Yeah. So I don't know if you knew this. Have you read the Call of Cthulhu?
A little bit.
You did? Dan, did you finish it?
Yeah, I finished it.
So you know how Cthulhu kind of dies and goes back to sleep in that story?
Yeah.
Okay. So Nico, all you had to do was say Cthulhu was killed by a boat. I mean, they literally drove a boat through his head and he died. I mean, that's literally how he went back to sleep. Is they drove a boat through his head. He's very vulnerable because he's a low, like, as powerful as he is, he's a low end entity. He's nothing compared to like Azathoth or Hastur or Shub or Nayar. I'm gonna put that in phonetically. I'm gonna make Google say this name.
Nyarlathotep.
Google speak. But yeah, it's and then there's even now because obviously I believe, I don't even know if it's called open domain anymore or whatever happened, but people have added on to the mythos because like I believe Cthulhu has a daughter now called Sitha, and she's like a fire version of Cthulhu, and she's really cool, but I don't think she doesn't have any actual stories like or am I thinking? No, wait, I'm sorry, hold on. Scylla. She's the Kraken that like in all of the, I don't want to say all of them, but like she's referred to as the Kraken.
Also, here, I think you guys can hear this. Hold on.
I hear nothing.
Nyarlathotep. You didn't hear it?
No, Nyarlathotep. Yep, that's yeah.
Nyarlathotep.
Yeah, Nyarlathotep. That's it. Yeah. So I can't remember. I know there is a. I don't remember if it's. I don't know who it is. Hold on. Sorry. Ooh. Anyway, but then even the monsters that come with it, like the star spawns, which are, you know, mortal versions of, what are they? Are they guardians of R'lyeh? And you both know from being in my house what my internet is called. So clearly I'm into the mythos. If you don't remember, it's my internet is R'lyeh. Yeah, star spawns are creatures of Cthulhu, so they're elder evils, which I believe they guard. If I'm not mistaken, they guard R'lyeh. So, but you also have like that. You know, you have all of those dimensions that are mentioned in the mythos as well, like the dream worlds and R'lyeh, and like Riley's the Upside Down City, which again, it's cool. I don't know. I just really like it. And this whole thing wasn't hard for me to get into. Like, it was. I read. Oh boy, what was it? I don't remember. Maybe it was Mountains of Madness I read first. And after I read that, I went out and bought the entire H.P. Lovecraft compendium and got into every single entity in his universe. So, and as you guys have witnessed, I have pretty much every board game that involves the mythos as well. The only one I don't have is the Arkham Horror card game because it's similar to the board game just with cards. So, but yeah. And then I've incorporated, not in your campaign, but I've incorporated Cthulhu into another one of my campaigns as a DM. Long story short, it was a seafaring campaign, so they had the characters had a boat, and they eventually were trapped in Cthulhu's dream with him, and he woke up and basically devoured the characters, which forced them to wake up, and then they couldn't decipher if they were in his reality or their reality. But it turned out I gave them hints along the way, so they kind of figured out that it was their reality, and they knew that Cthulhu was in their plane of it. He existed within where they were, but they didn't know where he was and when he would awake. So, and they wound up traveling to a war torn. Actually, I don't even know if it wasn't war torn. It was more like a desolate area that was the moon played a lot. The moon played part of what was going on in that world, or that area. But it was also again, they were trying to decipher if it was an old one's dream or if it was their reality. So I like to use that kind of stuff for my campaigns in D&D. Not that you guys have run across anything like that yet, but that doesn't mean it won't be there.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. So, but yeah, if you haven't and you're interested in horror stuff, or you like monsters, or that kind of stuff, I would check out. Well, I would start with Call of Cthulhu because I think that's the most well-known one. But what do you call it? The Mountains of Madness is really good, and I think the Old Man, or it's the Wicked Old Man, or something like that. I can't remember what the name of it is, but that's a really good one. I think that one, I believe that's the story with Azathoth in it is actually called Azathoth. So, but yeah, I would check those out. They're really fun to read, and they're very dark. So, but yeah, that's my rant and rave about the Cthulhu mythos.
So I actually been compiling some. Wait, is this? I have to see. I know I have it in some notes somewhere, but there was a list I had. I think I have it somewhere over here. There was a list I had about, or that had movies that were based on H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Colorado Space. That's another good one. Do you have that on your list?
I think I can't for the life of me seem to find
Nicholas
where
Cage
it is.
in it.
But there's a ton of movies that were made either as direct adaptations of Lovecraft's work or that were based on Lovecraft's work and stuff like that. There's a show that sadly got canceled, even though it was a fucking awesome, phenomenal show called Lovecraft Country.
Oh yes, I watched all that.
It was really good. I wish they would have they would have brought in a second season. It had a great ending, but having a second season, I feel would have been freaking awesome. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've got for you guys, man. I mean, we touched on quite a bit in terms of mythology, whether it's ancient mythology or modern mythology, like Lovecraft and Lovecraftian horror, or a little bit of comic books. I mean, the freaking Discworld. I have to look into that now because it sounds so
It's
freaking
trippy,
cool.
man.
And like some parts of it seem like it might like it would tie into freaking Stephen King. Dude, Stephen King's freaking mythology is insane. Like,
That's a whole
I mean,
episode right there.
right? I mean, like freaking the Dark Tower. It's freaking what is the freaking turtle's name? Mancarin? I can't remember.
Leonardo,
No, Raphael,
Donatello,
Michelangelo,
no, Splinter.
Seneca. Anyway, Splinter's not a turtle.
Yeah, he is. Harry Turtle.
Harry Turtle. Yeah, okay. But I mean, that's all I've got. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I think we got everything.
I mean, I can keep talking about Cthulhu.
I mean, I know we could. I mean, who knows? Maybe we should make that a whole episode on its own. I know we could probably talk about it for hours.
I mean, I know I could talk about it for hours.
I just need to do a little bit more research. That's all, and I think I could be just as knowledgeable at it as you would be.
Oh, absolutely, and it's fascinating to get into. It's I recommend reading a lot of the stories that go with it. I think it's called The Terrible Old Man. By the way, I said hold on, but I mean, what do you call it? Yeah, Terrible Old Man. That's a good one to read. I'm just trying to think of all like the little ones that like the little short stories.
I have a book of short stories. I believe it's all short stories of his that I got like on vacation one time just because I needed something to do when we were in between doing stuff. But I got into it a little bit. I just haven't dove back into it. But I mean, I've done again cursory researches like on some of the stuff, so I know a little bit about it, but I definitely would like to get more into it. So.
Dunwich Horror is a good one too, if you want to read that. And then there's I cannot think of oh my goodness, it's gonna kill me because it's another one of my favorites. It's with the fish people. Oh no! Oh man, what is it called? Dunwich. Shadow over Kingsport. Shadow Kingsport. Yep, something like that. Anyway, it's like shadows over. Something I don't remember. Innsmouth, Shadows over Innsmouth. That's it.
Oh, okay, yeah. That title sounds familiar. I do remember hearing that title.
That's another really good one to read. But yeah. I mean, I guess I can stop my rant there. It's really cool. You should look into it.
Yeah.
Colorado Space. I don't know. There's a lot. You should just cut me off. Nameless City. Another good one.
If there's any other like mythologies that you guys are interested in looking into, I know that if you look into Greek mythology, there's tons of different titles. I don't have an exact title, but I know that's the Iliad. You could either read the entire Iliad, which starts from the Trojan War and goes up until Odysseus's, return home, or you could just read the Odyssey. There's plenty of movies on it as well. Norse mythology, go check out the Poetic Edda. Take a look at Discworld because I know I'm about to, because that sounds freaking awesome. Yeah, and that's all I've got. So thanks for joining us tonight on Friday Night Shit Chat, guys. I've been your host, Nico, and we've had Dan,
and I'm Nick. Dagon's another good one.
I'll leave you guys with this. Have a good evening.
Fringlui Ngruna Klulu Lia Ganakal
How long I've been waiting for this.